My mother-in-law claimed she was helping by taking over our wedding guest list. I just added a few more people, she smirked. When the day arrived, more than half the guests were her friends. My speech during the reception made her regret every decision. Planning a wedding is supposed to be one of the happiest times in a couple's life. For my fiancé, Jake, and me, it started that way. We were high school sweethearts from Austin, Texas, and after 10 years together, we were finally ready to tie the knot. We envisioned a small, intimate ceremony with our closest family and friends. Little did we know, Jake's mother, Margaret, had other plans. Margaret had always been a force to be reckoned with. A retired school principal, she was used to being in control and having things her way. From the moment we announced our engagement, she expressed her desire to be involved in the wedding planning. Wanting to maintain a good relationship, I welcomed her input, hoping she would respect our wishes for a modest celebration. Jake and I sat down with both our families to discuss the guest list. We explained our desire to keep it under 100 guests, emphasizing the importance of sharing our special day with those closest to us. Margaret nodded in agreement, but I noticed a glint in her eye that made me uneasy. A week later, Margaret invited me over for tea. As we sat in her impeccably decorated living room, she handed me a list. "I've taken the liberty of adding a few names to your guest list," she said with a smile. I unfolded the paper and felt my stomach drop. There were over 50 additional names, many of whom I didn't recognize. "Margaret, this is quite a lot of people," I said cautiously. "Jake and I were hoping to keep the wedding small." "Nonsense," she waved her hand dismissively. "These are important people in our community. It would be rude not to invite them." I felt cornered. Not wanting to cause a rift, I told her I would discuss it with Jake. That evening, I showed him the list. "This is ridiculous," Jake said, frustration evident in his voice. "We can't afford to host this many extra people." "I know," I sighed. "But how do we tell her no without causing drama?" Jake decided to handle it, assuring me he would make her understand. The next day, he spoke with his mother, explaining our budget constraints and our desire for a small wedding. Margaret seemed to accept it, and we thought the issue was resolved. Invitations were sent out, and RSVPs started coming in. To our surprise, the numbers weren't adding up. We were receiving confirmations from people we hadn't invited. Confused, I reached out to one of Jake's cousins. "Hey, I noticed your friend RSVP'd to our wedding." "I don't recall sending them an invite," I said gently. "Oh," Margaret sent out a few extra invitations. "She said it was all approved," the cousin replied. I felt my blood boil. Margaret had gone behind our backs and invited her friends without our consent. Jake was livid. He confronted his mother, who didn't see the problem. "I was only trying to help," she said innocently. "You want your wedding to be memorable, don't you?" "Mom, this is not your decision to make," Jake said firmly. "You've overstepped." Despite our protests, the damage was done. We couldn't uninvite these people without causing a scene, so we reluctantly adjusted our plans to accommodate the additional guests. Our dream of an intimate wedding was slipping away. The wedding day arrived. As I walked down the aisle, I scanned the crowd. More than half the attendees were Margaret's friends. I felt like a guest at my own wedding. The ceremony went smoothly, but I couldn't shake the feeling of resentment. During the reception, it was time for speeches. Margaret had, of course, insisted on speaking. She took the microphone and began a long-winded speech about the importance of family and community. I plastered a smile on my face, but inside, I was seething. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and approached the microphone. "First, I want to thank everyone for coming today," I began. "It's truly heartwarming to see so many of Margaret's friends here to support Jake and me." There were a few chuckles, and Margaret's smile faltered. "Planning this wedding has been a journey," I continued. Jake and I had envisioned a small gathering with our closest loved ones. But, as you can see, plans changed. I glanced at Margaret, whose face was turning red. While it was unexpected, We are grateful for the opportunity to meet so many new faces today. It just goes to show how important it is to have open communication and respect boundaries when planning such an event. Margaret looked down, avoiding eye contact. Nevertheless, we are thankful for each and every one of you and hope you enjoy the evening. The room was silent for a moment before polite applause broke out. I stepped down, my heart pounding. Jake squeezed my hand, a proud smile on his face. After the wedding, Margaret was noticeably subdued. She never directly apologized, but her actions spoke volumes. She became less involved in our affairs, giving us the space we needed as a newlywed couple. Reflecting on the experience, I learned the importance of setting boundaries and standing firm. While it was a challenging situation, it brought Jake and me closer together and taught us valuable lessons about family dynamics and communication. Our wedding wasn't the intimate affair we had dreamed of, but it was memorable in its own right. And as for Margaret, she learned that sometimes helping isn't helpful at all. So after the wedding, I thought that was it. I figured maybe Margaret got the message. Maybe that awkward silence during my speech hit her harder than we thought. For a few weeks, she was quiet. Like, unusually quiet. No sudden visits. No surprise group dinners. No texts asking if we needed tips on married life. Honestly, it felt peaceful. But that peace didn't last long. It started small. Jake and I were setting up our apartment, hanging photos, arranging furniture, organizing the kitchen. One Saturday afternoon, I opened a drawer to find a set of fancy silverware I'd never seen before. I asked Jake, "Did you order this?" "No," he shrugged. "Looks like Mom's taste, though." That's when I noticed a card tucked behind the utensil tray. It was handwritten in her perfect cursive, just making sure my son eats with dignity. Love, Mom. Okay, weird. A little passive-aggressive, but harmless. We brushed it off. Then came the unexpected visits. One morning, I was still in pajamas, coffee in hand, hair a mess. Doorbell rings. Margaret. Standing there with a giant basket of homemade muffins and a list of essential weekly tasks for a happy household. I didn't let her in. I told her we were busy and gently closed the door. She texted Jake later, "I don't think she likes me in your home. We need to talk." I read that text over Jake's shoulder and laughed out loud. But deep down, I knew it wasn't funny. She wasn't done. Not even close. About a month later, my sister called me, furious. "Why am I hearing from your ML asking for my RSVP for a baby shower?" I froze. "Wait. What baby shower?" She sent me a screenshot. Margaret had created a Facebook event titled, "Celebrating the Next Chapter. Baby last name." Except I wasn't pregnant. Not even trying. Not even thinking about it. My birth control prescription hadn't even run out. I messaged Margaret immediately. "What is this?" "I'm not pregnant. Please take it down." She replied with, "Oh, sweetheart, it's just for fun. You'll be pregnant eventually, and we can't start planning too late. People are excited." She said that. Word for word. Can't start planning too late. Jake lost it. He called her. They argued for over an hour. I didn't hear every word, but I heard enough through the walls. "No, Mom. You don't get to run her life. You embarrassed us." Again. The Facebook event came down within the hour. But it was too late. A dozen people had messaged me congrats by then. My coworkers had seen it. Even my boss had sent a "so happy for you" email. I spent the next few days putting out fires. After that, we went no contact for a while. Jake blocked her number for a bit. I deleted her from social media. It was tense. Quiet again. But this time it didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the eye of a storm. Because Margaret wasn't done. She had one more move. And she made it at the worst possible time. Our first Christmas as a married couple, we were supposed to host. Just close family. My parents. My siblings. A few of Jake's cousins. We had a nice dinner planned. Games, music, nothing fancy. Just something warm and low stress. The night before, Jake and I were setting up the table when he got a call. He looked confused. "It's the caterer." "We didn't hire a caterer," I said. He answered anyway. His face changed immediately. He hung up and said, "Mom ordered a full catered Christmas dinner in our name," and gave them our address. What? She also invited 30 people. Her coworkers. Her new book club. Our old neighbors from when I was a kid. I was speechless. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. She hijacked our Christmas. Jake looked me in the eye. "This ends now." And it did. But not the way I expected. What Jake did next shocked everyone. And it made Margaret do something I never thought she was capable of. So, about that Christmas. Jake didn't yell. He didn't storm out. He didn't throw things. Instead, he got quiet. He sat at the kitchen table for a long time, just staring at his phone. Then he stood up, walked to the living room, and calmly said, "We're not doing Christmas here. Not anymore." We packed everything up. The food we made, the gifts under the tree, the decorations gone. We drove over to my parents' house that night and told them what happened. My family was more than happy to host. We spent Christmas morning cozy and calm, drinking cocoa and laughing. Then the doorbell rang. It was Jake's cousin, Megan. She looked confused and kind of panicked. "I just left your house. There are 30 people standing in the cold with store-bought casseroles and wine bottles." Jake nodded. "Yeah, I know. That's what happens when someone plans an event without asking." Megan blinked. "Aunt Margaret is losing it. Like, full meltdown. She said you're ungrateful. That you humiliated her in front of the community." I was about to say something when Megan interrupted me. She also said something else. "She's telling people you're pregnant." Again. I just stared at her. She told everyone this Christmas was a surprise reveal. Said she expected a baby announcement at dinner. That's why she invited so many people. I almost dropped my mug. Jake turned pale. "What the hell?" I whispered. "She even printed fake sonogram photos," Megan added. They were on the table, in little frames. Let me be very clear, I was not pregnant. No plans to be pregnant. No conversation about it with Margaret. Nothing. We sat there in shock. Megan left to try and explain the situation to the guests, and Jake picked up his phone. He unblocked his mom's number and sent a short text, "You need help. Do not contact us again until you're ready to apologize. And no more lies." We didn't hear back. But the lies didn't stop. 2 days later, my coworker pulled me aside at the office. "Hey, I just wanted to check in. I ran into Jake's mom at the store last night. She told me you guys were having some health issues and asked for prayers." I froze. "What health issues?" She said, "You'd lost the baby." I almost vomited right there in the break room. Jake drove straight to his mom's house that night. I begged him not to, but he was quiet again, the kind of quiet that scared me more than yelling ever could. He came back an hour later. His knuckles were red, not from a fight, but from how tightly he'd clenched his fists the whole time. He didn't say much, just, "We're done. For real this time." We blocked her again. Changed our numbers. Told our friends and family what really happened. We even moved. 2 towns over. New apartment. New start. But here's where the twist comes in. A few weeks after the move, Jake got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. He almost tossed it, but something about it made him open it. Inside was a long, rambling note. From Margaret. She said she was sorry. Not in the "I got caught" kind of way, but in the "I broke something and I don't know how to fix it" way. She admitted to everything, the fake invites, the sonogram prints, the lies. Then she said something we didn't expect. "I've been seeing a therapist. I have issues. I see now how I tried to control your lives because I had no control over mine." I didn't know whether to believe it. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to burn the letter. Jake read it 3 times and then set it down. "I don't think she's lying," he said. "But that doesn't mean I trust her." Fair. Very fair. So now we're in this weird limbo. We haven't reached out. She hasn't pushed. But something else just happened. And I don't know what to do. Margaret sent another letter. This one was shorter. Inside it was a photo. A real sonogram. Dated. Stamped. Not fake. And a note that said, "I'm pregnant." Yeah. What the hell do we do now? When Jake opened that last letter, the one with the real sonogram, he laughed at first. He thought it was a joke. Some weird, twisted way for his mother to get attention. "She's 63, he said. "This isn't possible." But I knew better. I looked at the photo, checked the hospital stamp. It was real. And the name on it wasn't hers. It was someone else's. A name we didn't recognize. That's when things got weird. I did a reverse search on the hospital's public database. Turns out the name on the sonogram belonged to a young woman named Sierra. 22 years old. Lives one town over. Jake and I stared at each other. He picked up his phone and called his aunt Margaret's sister. "Hey, do you know someone named Sierra?" There was a pause on the other end. Then she said, "Oh God. I was hoping you wouldn't find out like this." That's how we learned that Margaret had a secret. A big one. About 8 months earlier, right when she was crashing our wedding, she had started dating a much younger man. A 28-year-old landscaper who used to work on her lawn. No one in the family took it seriously. They thought it was a fling. Something temporary. Something pathetic. But apparently it wasn't. Apparently, it turned into something else. Something complicated. Margaret was paying his rent. Buying him clothes. Taking him on trips. Acting like they were royalty. And he was cheating on her the whole time. With Sierra. Now Sierra was pregnant. And Margaret? She'd found out and snapped. Instead of confronting it privately, she spiraled. Started telling people she was the one having a baby. Stole Sierra's sonogram photo from the guy's Facebook and mailed it to us as some sick way to stay in our lives. It was delusional. Sad. But also dangerous. Jake and I were done playing nice. We went public. Jake wrote a post on Facebook with every detail. The fake guest list. The baby shower. The false pregnancy. The stolen sonogram. The emotional manipulation. Everything. He tagged her. Tagged her friends. Tagged the church ladies who kept asking me for baby updates. He ended it with this. "This woman hijacked our wedding, lied about a grandchild, and spread rumors that my wife had a miscarriage. She needs help. But until she gets it, she is not welcome in our lives." It went viral in our town. People were stunned. Some defended her. Most didn't. Then came the final nail. Sierra messaged me. She said, "I had no idea she was using my pregnancy like that. I'm sorry. I didn't even know she knew." Then she dropped the bomb. She paid me $500 to take a photo of my sonogram and leave it on a park bench for someone to find. I thought it was weird. But she said it was for an art project. I printed the message. Sent it to Margaret. No words. Just the screenshot. She tried calling. We didn't answer. She sent letters. We returned them. Eventually, someone told us she had a breakdown. Ended up in a rehab facility. Not for drugs, just for her mental state. She wasn't stable anymore. Couldn't hold on to the lies. Couldn't keep up the act. Jake didn't cry. Neither did I. We felt free. And here's where I admit something. I should have spoken up sooner. I let it build. I let the lies pile up until they crushed her. I kept peace instead of setting boundaries. I avoided conflict until there was too much damage to fix. So yeah, she made her bed. But I helped fluff the pillows. Now, we're happy. Really happy. No fake sonograms. No surprise parties. No uninvited guests. Just peace. And a deep, deep lesson about what happens when you ignore red flags for too long. Sometimes, people don't change. But you can, and that's enough.